So today I'm going to show you how to use the Accuvision 3D measuring system. With the setup you get the camera, you get a monitor, a printer, a keyboard, a mouse. You get this box that helps communicate the camera to the computer. You get a computer and a set of speakers with it. You get a bunch of pointers, longer ones where you can get a more of a 90-degree, and there's different numbers on it. So there's 4, 5, 6, 3 on those guys. This guy's number 7, your longest one is number 8. Here's the actual unit itself. I got number 2 on there right now. It's just easy, it slides over top, and underneath this one is number 1. So here's tip number 1. There's number 2 that I had on. It just slides on all the way, and it seats down around there. So every system comes with the program, the Accuvision 3D program preloaded. And to make this work, you either go autonomous mode, which means the cameras aren't going to measure anything, but you can still get into the system itself. Or you can activate the cameras, and you'll know that the system's working when the screens are black that's saying, hey, the cameras are on. Does it look like the cameras are on? Say yes. Sometimes it won't pick it up because your cable might not be in all the way, but you hit yes and now you're in the system. As you can see, I've used this thing quite a bit, measuring frames for inspections or insurance work, whatever it might be. Like, you can do a whole bunch of jobs. At the top you can open a project simply by just clicking on it. So I got this Jeep Patriot here. This is a write-off, the theft recovery vehicle, and to get it past safety inspection we got to measure the whole bottom side of the frame and also the top side, which will be your engine bay. So I've got my Patriot file already started, so I can double click. It'll open up and say 1, meaning it has number 1 pointer on here, and you can go through 2, 3, 4, go through all of them. And if you want to know where your measuring points are, these arrows right here, you click these guys, that'll open and close the cameras. You go DB call, which is your database. You open that up and it'll give you a whole layout, and it gives you pictures if it's a bolt head or if it's a hole like this. There's a hole. It tells you exactly where they are on the car, whether it's the top side. Top side will be all the green ones here. All these blue ones are going to be on the bottom side. It even gives you side aperture measurements, like your B-pillars and stuff. So all these buttons up top, open project, create a new project. So when you create a new project, it pops all of this up. Put your make, model, VIN, all the information you want, comments here at the bottom, and you go link with DB, link with database. You click on it, it has every vehicle you can imagine. So if you wanted to pick a, let's say a Lexus IS 2015 IS 250, there's all your measurements for the Lexus, pictures, and whether it's a bolt or it's a hole. It's going to tell you if it's an oval hole, if there is. And even go as far as you can click up here where it says openings and frame, and this will actually bring up the old school measurements. By old school I mean if you're doing tape and tram, it tells you exactly, hey, hood hinge front bolt to the other side, it's going to be 1478 millimeters over, and yeah, it has this for all the openings and also has it for the frame. So if you need to worry about your openings, say you're changing out a side aperture or fixing a trunk or whatever, you can actually get the actual measurements the old school way still. So you can create a project copy, delete a project, select by RO, whatever, and all your databases, and you can add. If you're just looking to do like a quick check, kind of use it as like a tape and tram just to do quick linear measurements, you click right here and you can quickly measure a car, whatever you're measuring. The thing I like about this system, let's say you want to measure something and there are no measuring points for it because Mitchell didn't come out with them. You can pick your own measurements. So if you want to measure that bolt and compare it to this side, let's say this side's damaged, your passenger side is damaged, your driver's side is good. You measure a bunch of good points on the driver's side, find symmetrical points on your damaged side, and you can measure the same points. And if it doesn't have it in the database, you can go and click the same points to compare if they're symmetrical to one another or not. I use this a lot for measuring rear body panels where you don't get measuring points. The back end here was pushed in, and there's holes in here for the little clips to snap into, and what I'll do is I'll measure 2 bolts, say for the seats that are symmetrical points. I'll measure off that if I can find something, or holes or whatever further into the vehicle, and I'll measure the points along the top, so then I know if it's square, because I can do a linear measurement on the computer to see if it's square. But I can also check if this outer hole is symmetrical to this outer hole, because let's say it was hit in the back left. If they're not symmetrical, it'll say, oh, this hole is back 10 millimeters and this hole is forwards 10 millimeters. That's what it's going to take to make it symmetrical. What that tells me, if I know this side's damaged, this side's actually back 20 millimeters. So we're going to get into measuring this Patriot. All the measuring points are provided by Mitchell. Accuvision doesn't do their own measuring points. I believe every other system uses Mitchell except for Caroliner. I believe that they make their own. Caroliner it's good. I've used it before for things like your door openings. Like I said, you can get the old school frame measuring openings, but they'll actually put in where it says, oh yeah, you got to mark it right up here or whatever. There's a point, right on the edge here. You put your point there on the Caroliner and it'll actually measure it 3D, where if you want to do it yourself, it's just a simple 2D linear measurement. Let's get into actually measuring here. I opened up my file. I'll go to my database, and I'll have all my points. But I go, okay, bolt fender rear, there's a picture, yeah, it's a bolt. I go to the car, I take some tape, I tear off a little piece, and I go, okay, bolt fender rear. I put a little piece of tape beside it, and I find all my points, and I put a piece of tape, whether it's a hole, or it's a bolt, or it's a stud. I only mark one side of the vehicle because I know on the other side, it's the exact same point, it's symmetrical. It's just extra tape and time I don't need to do marking out these holes because I've done it so many times. To me it's unnecessary, but definitely mark all of your holes, your bolts, your studs with a piece of tape. It'll save you time from going back and forth like, oh, is this a point or not, or oh, I must have missed something. The tape will tell you exactly where you need to measure. It takes very little amount of time to put it on. You're measuring and you have your pointer. Just do this for a demonstration. Let's say this tape is a hole that you're measuring, and let's say this little handle here is a bolt. When you go and you measure, I'll show you in a bit, you want to put that pointer on a bolt right dead center. If you put it off to the side, it won't measure right. It can actually screw up how it all looks on the computer after you hit calculate, because all the measuring points are kind of based off of all the points that you used versus the specs that they give you, and they get their points from measuring cars right off of a lot, right off the assembly line. I've even heard that they will rent a car and measure the whole car just to get the measuring points because they didn't have access to, a dealership or the assembly line or whatever. They'll find any way to find these points. So it's kind of just an average of all the vehicles that they've measured. So you want to make sure that you have everything exactly in the center, because if you have it off, I found that if you don't do it accurately, it'll throw a whole bunch of points. You'll measure 20 points along the bottom of your frame, and you know that the vehicle is perfect, but they'll have these random points throughout where there was no collision even, and it's just a totally unmolested part of the car, and it just says like, oh, like these points are forward 20, and then right here they're in 40, and it's like really wacky numbers because you weren't 100% accurate with your pointer. And then for doing a hole, you can do one side at a time. You want to do all 4 sides. So you go and you click and it'll beep. Then you go right across to the other side and you hit the button again and it'll go circle. Then you go to this side, circle, circle. So all this is doing is you're getting all 4 sides of this circle here, and what that it can do is figure out exactly where it is in the middle. You can't just hold this here and find the middle because you don't know if you're up or down, left or right, in or out, or whatever it could be. It's really tough to figure that one out. So you want your cameras close enough that it can read, but if you start getting further and further away, it'll beep when you know that the point is good. When you get to a point further away, it'll say 1 more time, but you get further away, it'll say 2 more times. So then you want to hit the button and hold it, and it'll beep, go 2 more times, 1 more time, and then it'll beep again. And then it goes all the way. You can pretty much do 3/4 of any vehicle, and it'll even tell you to do it like 3 more times or whatever, right? Make sure that you hold this unit straight and steady, because then it has the best chance of reading. If there's anything obstructing it, it won't read the point. It'll tell you that the camera can't see it. The pointer's pretty simple. There's 2 buttons. This one right here. This one turns these lights on to say, hey, I'm measuring a point and I want the cameras to pick it up. And then this other point is, say you're underneath a vehicle and you're like, I need a longer end. You slap on your number 7 end, you press and hold this button, and it'll go 2, 3, 4 until you get to 7. When it gets to 7, you stop, then it knows it has pointer number 7 on it. So these lights here will shine into those cameras. The cameras will pick it up, and they know exactly how far this pointer is. Physics, science, math, you name it. Things that I'm not paid to figure out, nor do I care to learn about it. I'm just a body man. I measure frame, I paint cars, paint gun goes psh. So I'm just gonna make sure I click the right pointer. I got number 7 on. As you can hear, it's beeping and tell me 1 more time. I click it again and measures the point.
Circle. Circle. Circle.
And you can hear me doing a circle there. I also find when I'm doing anything mechanically, like a suspension point or a strut mounted point, they aren't always 100% accurate. So you kind of have to do a judgment call, because the computer doesn't always think like a human. The computer can do a lot of things, but just can't think like us. Nice thing about this system, since it's 3D, it tells you to the millimeter if it's up, down, left, right, in or out. It tells you exactly where that point is in relation to where it should be or to the rest of the vehicle.
Circle. Circle. Circle.
So as you can see, it was pretty easy to measure the frame. On the top side, took about 1.5 minutes. Not really working hard at it. I used the number 7 pointer, and I kept using this button. I didn't use this one because I knew it was already 7.
8.
But as you can see, you have in front of the camera,
2, 3, 4.
it'll change which pointer you're on. You can measure anything anywhere. It can be on the ground, on the lift, on a frame rack. I'm doing this one on the ground. You finish measuring what you need, close the cameras, you hit next series, you'll see all these red points. These are your points that you just measured. Okay, go hit next at the top right corner here, and it says, oh, symmetrical pairs. You'll pick 2 points that are the exact same. You can see the line's a bit of an angle. That's kind of where the camera is sitting. All you're doing there, pick 2 points, you hit accept, it straightens it out and squares everything up. So once you do that, you hit next. It says setting of horizontal level. I was told not to worry about this, don't do anything, just hit next. I'm like, okay. I haven't had an issue or anything. But then right here, since I'm measuring the front of the vehicle, it already knows where it goes. But if you're just measuring the back, you're gonna wanna do a 180-degree rotation, because it's gonna think the points that you measured are from the front. It's gonna make a mess of everything. So make sure when you're doing the rear end of the vehicle first, you would do a 180-degree rotation. We'll save project, we'll open it up. You can adjust your tolerances, you can calculate, you can click here. This is for your linear measurements. But anyways, here's all your database points. You click on all the points that you measured individually. I wish they would come out with somewhere you click on the one side, it automatically does the symmetrical side, but maybe in an update sometime. Hit accept. Now you got all these points here. Control A on your keyboard is what's going to highlight all of them. I got all my points. Oh wait, did I do that again? No, I didn't do these guys. Pick those guys, accept. I've highlighted all the ones because when you hit Control A, or you can click on them individually, you're telling them, I want to make sure you measure this point 3D. Hit calculate up here. And sometimes I find it throws it off. I find that strut towers are a bit of an issue because sometimes they can be changed and the stud could be different. Is that the structure of the vehicle? I don't know, but I always measure them anyways just in case. But when you take away anything mechanical, because I even find suspension mounting points will throw it off a lot, and I kind of just, if it's giving me grief on the suspension mounting point, I just delete it because I feel like that's not part of the actual frame of the vehicle. Where this, all your fender bolts are directly tied in with your upper apron here. Or I feel that is a more reliable measurement. It's something that can actually be adjusted. But yeah, I got green measuring points. Everything 3 millimeters or less. Number 2 is getting a little more forward. That's just how they build them. It's not like it's a high-end vehicle where the tolerances are super tight. Number 3 is out. Yeah, like very minor. Like it's not really, you don't really sweat the 3, even if it's like 4 or 5. Like you kind of go, I mean, it still fits, but if it's part of an insurance claim or getting it past the safety inspection, you got to make sure it's in tolerance. So when you print everything out, you hit print. This kind of gives you the preview of what it looks like on your sheet. You can have all your comments and stuff up top here, the date, what it is, your actual specs there. When you have everything calculated, you click the L here at the top. That puts into linear mode. You can click whatever points you want, and you can do a cross measurement to see how far off they are. And you can do it with any points you want. Go crazy. So that's an easy way to do linear measurements too. If you want to add any points, you can add points by clicking in here. You can delete points by clicking here. So you hit delete point, you go over, you click your point, and it'll say, do you sure you want to delete? You go yes. But if you want to add points, you have to make sure that everything has been calculated and you have some green dots, because the green dots are what you call your anchor points. Those are good points to remeasure off of. So when you add points, make sure it's calculated and you measure off of anchor points, not the diagnostic points, because those aren't going to be accurate. I do find that it is really hard to fudge the measuring points on this thing because the computer is smarter than me at the end of the day when it comes to measuring frames and stuff out. But I've tried to play with it where like I'm going to try and make this point out, but it has just thrown a whole bunch of other points out. It's really tough to cheat these systems. So that is kind of a quick tutorial demo on how to use the Accuvision 3D. I'm sure I missed some things, but pretty straightforward system. I've had no issues with it. It's very accurate. It's quick. Like I said, I did the top side in a minute and a half. If I had a 2-post hoist, I could get this vehicle up in the air and I could have this whole car measured in 5 to 10 minutes quite easy. The full frame, I could do all the points quite easy. This, I'm just jacking it up, putting jack stands underneath and having to crawl on the ground. It's not the most ideal, but I've done that a lot of times. It's never been an issue. So if you like a video like this, or if you have any questions, I can definitely answer them in the comments. Just like, subscribe, keep following along. I'm trying to put out as much information on what I do, things in the industry, and keep you guys entertained. See you.